Hello and welcome to the heartland of Mid-Ulster, one of the most beautiful but least known parts of Northern Ireland. These are the Sperrin Mountains, and I have to say, for the views alone, it was definitely worth the climb. On today's Songs of Praise, you've heard of the hairy bikers, but we meet up with the holy bikers. We hear inspirational stories of faith from broadcaster Gloria Honeyford and Pastor Tim Shields, and music from the priests and Voices of Ireland. Over 100 years ago, the people of Lisson gathered here to celebrate the dedication of this church to St Michael. And today the congregation are here to remember not just St Michael, but all saints as they sing, Holy, Holy, Holy. St Paul the Evangelist, famously converted on the road to Damascus, travelled tens of thousands of miles, spreading the gospel of Christianity. He travelled by foot, but Nigel Kirkpatrick and Andrew McCroskey, two Church of Ireland ministers, made a pilgrimage of their own, with a difference. Well, Andrew and Nigel, you've been on an amazing journey. You've combined your two loves, God and biking. You must feel very lucky.
It was very enjoyable. Everywhere we went, we experienced wonderful hospitality. We were making a journey around all 30 cathedrals in the Church of Ireland to raise awareness for the charity United Society, and their work specifically in Ireland is concentrated on Swaziland.
And what sort of reception did you get along the way?
Most days we had somebody actually riding with us. People joined us for bits of the journey.
They came into the cathedrals and prayed with us, and they donated to the United Society, and they were just good lads who enjoyed the biking as much as we did.
And where did the journey begin exactly for you, Andrew?
I went out to Swaziland just to visit some of the projects, And on the very last day of that trip, I went to All Saints Cathedral in Babani, and there we'd arranged to meet some of the bikers who exist in Swaziland. There's not very many of them, but there are some. And so the Red-Eyed Ravers motorcycle club came up on their bikes.
Yeah, so the seed was sown there and then.
Yeah, that's really where it started.
Andrew mentioned there about All Saints. What does the Feast of All Saints mean to you, Nigel?
For me, it has a dual meaning. You know, we remember all those great champions of the church who did so much to build the early church, and I always like to include a remembrance of all those people who have gone before us.
You set out to raise £10,000. How much have you actually raised?
There's still a little bit of money to come in, but so far we've raised 11,000. But supporting things like medical care, education, also providing food for feeding stations, orphan care.
Do you think you'll ever take on another challenge like this again?
I'd be game, yeah.
I think we'd have to think of something even more unusual.
Well, boys, I have to say, well done, congratulations, and all that's left for me to say is, on your bikes. Honeyford enjoys a hugely successful broadcasting career, but she's always thought of herself first and foremost as a mum. So to lose her only daughter, television presenter Karen Keating, to cancer was devastating. But Karen's death has not lessened Gloria's faith.
There is a moment when you think, I have prayed so much, during this illness and during this time, that you think, if there is a God at all, why weren't my prayers answered? But I made a very conscious decision that I wanted to retain my faith, because it did give me great strength during that 7-year period when Karen was battling her cancer. And I needed that. I needed something else to hold on to. And therefore, the fundamental belief that I have internally in the fact that there is a hereafter, whatever that may be, and that I will see Karen again, that does give me an inner strength to try and cope with what I have to cope with.
When Karen died, she left behind 2 young sons.
At that time, Gabriel was only 7 and Charlie was 10. And Gabriel was a tiny little, sort of almost like moist-eyed, little scared rabbit in the headlights, obviously. And yet you look at them now, and Gabriel is 6'4", taller than all the other grandchildren, and Charlie's not very much behind him. They are fabulous boys. I like them at certain points of the year to go down to Hever Castle, where Karen is buried. About a month ago, it would have been Karen's birthday, and this is her 10th year, by the way, which is hard to believe. So I like all the family to gather together, but because the boys are there, I like to make it as much fun. That seems ridiculous, talking about fun when you actually go to a graveside. But we have balloons and we tie balloons around the headstone. Russ, Karen's former husband, he has 2 little girls, but in this case it was Tilly, and she's about 5 or 6. And so when we went down to the graveside, Tilly said to me, Daddy was telling me that Karen was your little girl. And we were all very emotional because there's something about a child talking about Karen as a child. And she said, how old was Karen when she died? So I said, well, she was in her 30s when she got sick with cancer, and she was 41 when she died. And so Tilly thought about it for a minute, and then she went, well, why are you still alive? At which point we went from tears of emotion to absolute convulsions. So children just have a wonderful direct way to deal with it.
In Karen's memory, Gloria and Karen's brothers set up the Karen Keating Foundation.
I have a phrase that says that people never die if they live on the lips of the living. So I talk about Karen a lot, and I talk about her to the boys a lot. And I like them to acknowledge everything that their mum was. For example, with the foundation, the boys come along to events. And so they're very conscious of what's being done in their mum's name. And I hope that that makes them proud of their mum as well, as she would be proud of the foundation. That also is a great healing process, because when you're faced with the devastation, you think, how am I going to turn this around ever? And so therefore, to do something in Karen's name, for other families and other people who are going through the whole cancer process, and we deal with all types of cancer, not just breast cancer, from which Karen died, it forms part of your healing, part of your being, and you have to cling on to things like that. And if you want to use the word comfort, then comfort's a good word.